guys, I'm Paige, and welcome back to another episode of Records Near Me. Today, I'll be chatting with Ted Ross, owner of Waterloo Sunset Records, which you might recognize from its previous location in the Battery, but it has since relocated to Marietta, Georgia. Along with Ted, you'll hear a familiar voice pop in and out during the first half of the interview, and that is the voice of Atticus Roness from Episode 1. Go check out his album, Power Pop World Domination, now. Guys, Waterloo Sunset Records has so many hidden gems, and it's a hidden gem itself. Every time I visit, I discover so many cool records. Things that I don't even normally see. And things I didn't know I wanted until I was holding them in my hand. Which is probably why I never leave with anything less than a stack of records when I visit Waterloo Sunset. But how can I resist when everything is so reasonably priced? It just adds to the temptation. Or maybe I just can't help myself. But either way, Waterloo Sunset Records never disappoints, so make your way over there and show some love, because it's a damn good record store. Take it from me, someone who's been to over 100 different record stores. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Records near me, let's go and see what lies behind a record store's mind. If you're lost, get found, take in the sound. It's a place to go when you're feeling low. So if you don't mind, we'll share what we find. Make a podcast, so all this will last. If you're lost, get found, take in the sound. It's a place you go. So let's start the show. Start the show.
So, give me a little backstory of the origin of Waterloo Sunset Records. Do you remember the first record you sold? How did you get into the business?
Well, I've been in the business since, like, the Noah's Ark. I mean, kind of from the womb. I always liked fooling around with records, and I collected them when I was a teenager. And then we opened the first store in 2017, but I had been a professional record dealer since like 2000, and so I've been doing it forever.
All right. So your original location was in the Battery, and
No, original location was in the hot dog factory location, where kind of near Rev Coffee on Spring Road.
Okay, how'd you end up there?
It was available and cheap, and I thought that Smyrna would be excited to have something to do, because Smyrna didn't really have anything like a bookstore or anything.
Yeah.
So I thought, maybe Smyrna was ripe for, some cultural sort of parachuting into Smyrna with records. But it actually didn't really work, and I don't know that we ever figured out what didn't work, but it was not a success. I mean, we had sort of like this coterie of the devoted record people.
Yeah.
We were so cheap that it was almost like embarrassing. People would like come up to the register and be like,
"Are you sure?"
I'm buying like these 3 records for $8 a piece, and they should be like 20.
Yeah.
We were just very inexpensive, partially because my philosophy has always been that if you are not quite sure what something's going to sell for, then it's better to be cheap than expensive, because I don't really like the idea of overpricing things. So
Yeah.
So we were very inexpensive, and we had kind of that store and this store have a kind of similarity, which is that I had a long time to get stock together.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we closed in the Battery in 2022, I had almost 3 years to basically, come up with a bunch of new records. So we have I think a lot of good stuff in here.
Really. I think this is the best stock we've ever had since I've been.
There's so many treasures hidden.
We're going to start giving the customers a hand truck so that
exactly.
they can just
Yeah.
start
Yeah,
carting.
We don't need bags. We need to get boxes.
Yeah, you need little wagons
Water
at the
boxes.
front.
Water boxes.
Yeah.
So how did you end up here? Did you always know you wanted to reopen?
Oh, yeah. we were in kind of like an athlete in training. We're like in the middle of our career, so we're gonna keep going.
And then we were like looking for a spot right after it.
Well, actually, you actually were responsible for us opening here.
Hey.
Because you told me about a space in the square.
Yeah.
Like December of last year or something like that, or maybe it was earlier.
Yeah.
And that was not available, but he had another space, and this was the other space.
Guy.
It was the same
guy.
guy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
that's why I'm Atticus Roness, Swing Power Pop World Domination out there. You guys keep talking about
Yeah, feel free to step away at any moment especially if you gotta help the customer. So, is there a reason you went with Waterloo Sunset Records besides maybe the obvious that you're a fan?
I am in paradise.
How'd you land on that? Has it always been called Waterloo Sunset?
Well, the record store has always been called Waterloo Sunset. I don't think that there was a burning desire on my part to have the Kinks as our namesake, but people have a tendency to name their record stores cutesy names that are supposed to be puns. I'd like to have a name that's just a good song that people who are recordy probably can relate to. And I mean, if I had to do it over again, maybe I would have taken something a little bit more recent, I'm not sure what that would be, but something that would be more relatable, because most people who come in the store just say, if they're on the phone and they're talking to their friend, they'll say, I'm in Waterloo, because this thing is about like, Etruscan poetry as far as people are concerned. It's like so, kind of out there and recondite. They have no idea what it is. They have no idea whether we took two meaningless words and put them together.
That's kind of surprising to me, but I guess that makes sense since.
Well, the Battery, which was the bulk of the time we've been open still, we had mostly younger people, like in their 20s, because the Battery was kind of a young person's kind of dating rom-com-y thing.
Yeah.
So we had lots and lots of people coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for Drake or Kendrick Lamar, you aren't saying, I need to check out Waterloo Sunset and the Kinks from 1967. So most of the people just didn't mean anything to. But I was trying to come up with something that was not weird, that sounded kind of interesting, kind of evocative, but wasn't something that was too weird. Like, there's a song by CAC from 1967 called Electric Sailor. Actually, I just love this song. It's like a very early kind of power pop psych thing. But I just thought naming ourselves the Electric Sailor was just going to be strange. Like, people were just going to, I don't know, just thought people were just going to think it's a head shop or something to do with sex, or I don't know. So I thought Waterloo Sunset's kind of neutral. You can tell your mom you're in Waterloo Sunset, but if you say you're an Electric Sailor, I feel like your mom would be concerned.
Well, I really like the name. It is a classic. It stands out, and I know exactly what it means. So got me excited. Yeah.
Great. Wow, we found somebody who likes it. Awesome.
That's so shocking to me. What?
I know. It's like it took a podcast for us to realize that.
Ted's his toughest critic. Everybody likes the name. He just doesn't know.
Was the logo always the same?
So we have this one logo that we've been using since we started, and actually, I think to some extent this was like one of these happy accidents, because the printer took our image and he kind of shadowed it. We had done it directly, I think, from the insert from Arthur, which is the Kinks. So it's actually Queen Victoria. Some people think it's a king because it's not so easy to, but I don't know, it looks like a queen to me wearing a crown.
I think it looks like a queen.
Yeah, but we've had people say, who's that guy on your sign? So, I don't know, we took the insert from Arthur, which is sort of a playful, colorful thing. Sort of looks like the Sgt. Pepper insert. And we just sort of basically purloined it. And I just always liked the way it turned out. So.
Yeah, I love the logo too. Overall, everything.
Yeah, it doesn't really, again, it's one of these things that's more like evocative. It doesn't really have anything to do with records per se. You know, especially if you don't know that it's from the Kinks album.
Yeah.
Different album than Waterloo Sunset. It's 2 records later.
So, this new location, what do you think, besides the location, what is the biggest change from the other stores? I see you have this beautiful mural. Have you always had a mural?
Well, Zoe Canfield is somebody who worked at the store at the Battery. She's an artist and very talented, and she's great. She's just, just give her a blank space and she's going to put something beautiful in it. Her dad works in the store, and in fact, the Canfields and the Waterloos have gone back pretty closely for several years.
Okay. So you sell more than just records. You sell a lot of pop Funko, and I did see the bookshelf in the back. So has that also always been a part of Waterloo, or is that a new location thing?
Well, when we started, I envisioned it being a place where people who just liked pop culture could come, and records would be part of it. But I thought, it's a mainstream, we wanted to be mainstream. I wanted to be mainstream. So I wanted to have, I thought, DVDs, Blu-rays would be popular, and that would be like mainstream people. Like, you didn't have to be this kind of subculture little niche person. Just anybody likes movies, and they sold them at Target and Walmart. But as it turned out, people actually didn't want them. And so we continued in the Battery to have other kinds of digital media, but it was really just not possible to get people to buy anything other than records. Mm-hmm. And then surprisingly, CDs were actually pretty good. And we also did well in the Battery with a lot of other things, because you had just this huge constellation of other people coming for various reasons. Mm-hmm. Some were destination people, but a lot were just walking around. So we just wanted to have stuff that would appeal to, the average 25-year-old Atlanta person.
Yeah, that's smart, because lots of random foot traffic there.
So here there's none, and so we are going to do what we're doing, or had done at the Battery, but, in the Battery we did have a little broader, where we sold candy and snacks and Coke machines, and we had just all kinds of stuff. And we've pretty much just concentrated on records. I'm trying to make it so that if you're not a record person, you can still come in and enjoy it. And I like records because they're thought-provoking and interesting. And I like books for the same reason. And so, for me, selling records and books isn't like Atticus and a lot of other people seem to think that this is some kind of taboo that I'm breaking. Because it's like, records are records, and then books is a totally different business. But I just see them as tangentially similar, because they're both for people who are thoughtful, introspective people who are moved by art and interested in ideas. So we're going to expand our book section, and that's more just a personal decision than me trying to do anything business oriented. It's just something that I think I can understand why somebody would want a first edition of a Kurt Vonnegut book, and I have a harder time understanding why somebody wants Funko Pops, because it's just not something I'm personally that attuned to, although I do have a Keely Jones Funko Pop from Ted Lasso.
Okay.
So I have a Keely Jones.
So that's your one Funko Pop?
Well, no, I also have I've had a couple of people give me Funko Pops, so I have some SpongeBob SquarePants Funko Pops.
Nice.
So, but I can understand somebody paying good money for a first edition of a book and having this kind of rapacious cupidity. I really want this book. I really want it in its original form. I get that.
And who knows how many edits and re-releases it's had.
Well, I think that the original also is closer to the actual creator. Mm-hmm. It feels closer because they wrote the book, and then it has not gone through 10,000 represses. I don't think it makes that much difference. Like, I'm not going to say I just can't enjoy Shakespeare unless I have a first folio to read from,
Yeah.
So I don't really need that, but I understand the appeal.
Mm-hmm,
so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really intrigued when I saw the growing book section. I'm excited to see what else you put out. Do you have books that you like specifically, or just anything you find that you think people will like?
I think it's always a combination. Like, in a record store, you want to be... I don't like the word curated, as if there's this curator who has is the perfect narrator of a book, like omniscient, and I know exactly what should be said in this book, or I should know exactly what should be in this record store, because I don't listen to Journey. or Air Supply or
My favorite band.
whatever, lots of other things, and I do like Kevin Ayers or something like that. So Atticus knows that because I've tortured Atticus's ears.
I know every one of Ted's 8 bands that he likes.
So a lot, likes a lot. There's lots of bands I like, but not a lot. So anyway, so I'm gonna buy I'm gonna buy Kevin Ayers records if somebody has them and be happy. But I'm also gonna stock Journey. So there's a kind of pragmatic quality to it where you know, like I think it's really like I've had people say I'm not gonna sell anything in my store that I wouldn't listen to myself. And it's like, well, that's great. Why don't you just keep your collection in your basement and then you'll be super happy. You'll never have a record you don't want. I mean, you have to be realistic and practical. And besides, there's lots of records I don't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's lots of stuff, you know, I don't know, current hip-hop. I mean, I listen to current pop just to sort of see what's going on. And I like Billie Eilish. And I kind of like Ed Sheeran. But, you know, most of it sounds a little bit disposable to me. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to say, oh, no, we're not going to carry that. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any records that if they passed through the store, there's no way you'd be able to sell them? You'd have to keep it yourself?
It's kind of a weird list. Like it would be, I would say, things that I kind of just was like wanting for myself, which would probably be very obscure things. But most records, you know, most records I want, I have. There's just, you know, a handful of expensive things that I would like to have, but if they came in the store, it would be shocking because they're very rare and expensive.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. By now, you'd have most of the ones that you want. I'm still building, I think, some of the ones that I want, like some of the classics that I should have, but I haven't gotten them yet. So, yeah.
All right, I'm out of here. But Paige and Ted, enjoy your night. Shout out to Waterloo Sunset Records and Records Near Me.
Peace out.
See ya.
Buy my cat.
So, what is the last record or album that you heard that surprised you? It can be good or bad.
I think Total Response by Horace Silver, because I think of Horace Silver as a very playful, fun guy, but not somebody who's kind of super funky. But Total Response has Salome Bay on vocals, and it sounds like almost like a Pharoah Sounders meets the Headhunters, and I was surprised at how good it was. In a good way.
Nice, okay. Are there any modern bands that have kind of caught your attention that you started following at all, or?
I mean, there's silly little bands like Amyl and the Sniffers, you know.
Oh, they are so good.
We just think that they're so funny.
I love them, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the Sex Pistols. You know,
Yeah,
her vocals are very Sex Pistol-y.
I can definitely see that. I love the lyrics and I love the energy.
Right.
Of Amyl and the Sniffers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, you know, they're kind of like the Runaways or something. It's kind of like not a very serious thing, but it's just fun. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked The Clash because they sound sort of like Amyl and the Sniffers. Their early stuff, their later stuff doesn't. I mean, they're punk for about 10 seconds and then they're not punk. But The Clash was also, for my generation, the band that you could like and not be accused of, I don't know, liking them because they were poppy or frivolous. I mean, this Clash were seen as thought-provoking and interesting, so there's kind of an unspoken Clash feeling that, you know, this was a band that was interesting and had a lot to say. Just Drummer was a super interesting person, and so I think those bands tend to wear better over time. So a lot of bands that are not serious kind of get a little bit same old, whereas the Clash and the Beatles and other bands, you know, they maintain a certain presence because they have, for whatever reason, some sort of history going through them, and it's just something that isn't generic. There's just a desire to, like when you hear a pop song, that's kind of really catchy for some reason. You just keep wanting to hear it to see, well, what is it that's really making this thing click for me?
Yeah.
And those bands, you just kind of can continue to listen to them, and you re-experience that feeling of, discovery and exploration. So Animal and the Sniffers is not something that I think that's going to happen with me. Like, it was fun, but I think that there are bands that are a little bit more trenchant and interesting.
Do you want to talk about some of those bands that you think?
Well, I think The Clash is the one. I mean, Velvet Underground, The Clash, Patti Smith. For me,
have you read any of her books?
I've kind of leafed through her poetry.
Okay.
Have you?
Yeah, I just read M Train this year, and then Just Kids. I read that one as well. I really like both of them.
Just Kids was about her and Robert Mapplethorpe, or wasn't she talking about like her formative years in the 70s in New York? Yeah, I should read that. That would be something I would really like.
I think
How was
you would
it?
really like it. I really enjoyed it. I love her style of writing. It's very mundane isn't the right word, but it's very like everyday. It's not simple, but I feel like sometimes the topics are just very everyday life, and I really like that. In M Train, I really liked how it was almost like a travel journal type format, and I love traveling, so that's why I probably enjoyed that. But it's just, I like her style of writing, just the way it's just
honest.
It's very honest. She's not trying to make a big show or dramatize anything. She says it how it is, and I think that's very interesting.
Well, I think the interesting thing about her early stuff is that you feel as though she's just basically giving you reportage of what she's thinking about.
Yeah.
It's not like she's trying to be super artsy and say, I am not going to impress you because I'm going to harken back to some 19th century French poet. It's more just what her headspace was.
Yeah.
So it makes her interesting because, I mean, she's just a fascinating person, especially at that moment. I think she's at her apex of exploration and taboo and just trying to explore what's transgressive and what's not, and, pissing in the river and her redo of My Generation, where she says Jesus died for somebody's sins but not mine. She's definitely got her finger on some pulse that is a very exciting pulse.
Yeah. I do really like. I'm a Patti Smith fan, so.
Yeah, no, me too.
That's awesome.
We were playing Trampin' in here yesterday. You should have been here.
Oh man, if I didn't live so far, I would be here way more often. On a weekday, it's a little long for me, but weekend, not bad at all.
Okay, well, you just need to call ahead. We'll make an appointment.
Yes.
We'll be open for whatever is the easiest traffic time for you.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite movie, soundtrack, or score? I think there are maybe
some.
Well,
I like The Shining.
Ones. Okay.
I mean, that's my favorite score. It's to me, that's like my kind of heavy metal experience. It's very it's very churning and loud. The way I think people relate to metal as being almost like a cushion that is just sort of like compressing against you, and it's just like a kind of a feeling of being like completely immersed. And the soundtrack to The Shining is kind of like that for me. I kind of just like to play it really loud and kind of have all the weird voices and spooky clanks and all that stuff. And I don't know, it's always been a really hard record to find because there must have been some issue between Kubrick and the movie studios, so that Warner Bros. Put it out in like 78 or 80, I guess 80. And then it's never been reissued that I'm aware of legitimately ever.
Oh,
and
wow.
So you only can listen to it on record and of course on Spotify or whatever, but it's never been reissued since. And so kind of finding The Shining has also been like, for somebody who just likes digging through crates, it was fun for me. I kept buying The Shining partially because the copies that I got didn't sound that great, and partially because I just liked stockpiling records of The Shining. And I do that sometimes with records that I like. I'll have multiple copies of the same record.
Okay.
So in case I ever meet somebody who's like, I like such and such, then you need to listen to this, and I can give them the record.
Oh, I love that. Wow, I feel like you just opened my mind into a new something. I really like that idea. So what was the last record that you gave away? Do you remember? And is there a story with that?
I mean, I've given. There's a record by Bernie Schwartz called The Wheel, and I've given that record to people. I've sometimes given records to people who kind of re-gifted them. It was like, no, I do not want this record. But I think there's some records that I like that I just think are masterpieces that nobody really is on anybody's radar. And Bernie Schwartz is one of them, I think, because he came up with the probably least flower childy name that could possibly exist. I mean, it sounds like he's going to be your accountant. And so Bernie Schwartz is it's a psychedelic record. It's great. He does a Neil Young cover, but it's not going to be something that people are going to say, I'm going to listen to, I don't know, the All Night Truckers, and then I'm going to listen to Bernie Schwartz. It just doesn't sound right. So there's kind of a, so his name is kind of just, so anyway, I'll psych people, I'll say, you got to listen to this record. And me and one other person on the internet are obsessed with this record.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He and I are both like, this is the greatest record of all time, and I know that everybody hates this record, but I still think this is a fantastic record. So the two of us are carrying this torch for this 1969 record that no one likes.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the backing group is Euphoria, which was Wesley Watt and Lincoln, and that record from '67 is like everybody's loves that record, and it's on everybody's want list. But then they're the backing band on Bernie Schwartz's record, but nobody wants it.
Wow.
It's a terrible injustice.
Yeah,
Terrible.
sounds like it.
Yeah, terrible.
Huh. Are there any other albums that you think fit into that category of maybe masterpieces that you think are slept on?
I think that one thing about being a record dealer is that for whatever reason, the kind of music that you like tends to be the kind of music that other people like. And so, if you like, there's nothing wrong with liking Air Supply, but if you're a record dealer and your favorite band is Air Supply, you're not going to be on the same wavelength as the people who are coming into your shop. So I think one of the ways that you get to be a professional record dealer is that you just get it. Whatever's going on and, whatever was making people want to do music, you respond to. And I think that the interest that I have in music means that I tend to be attracted to bands that have staying power because they're interesting and thought-provoking. And so you end up having records that people like because they're the records that speak to you as well. Like Patti Smith. I mean, I think if you like rock, then you should have some kind of healthy respect for Patti Smith. You should have a healthy respect for David Bowie, Iggy Pop, people that are just super interesting, creative people.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite genre or section in the store that you like to tend to the most? Is there a part that...
I like to tend to whatever has just come in that is really cool.
Ooh, okay.
Awesome stuff. When awesome stuff comes in, that's the most fun. Absolutely.
What are some awesome things that have come in the past week or couple weeks?
Well, we got 2 Terry Callier records, which are great, especially Occasional Rain. It's a really, really good record.
Ooh.
Super interesting.
Man, my favorite takeaway from these interviews is all of the music recommendations. I truly get an education every time, because I'll listen back and I'll make a playlist of some sort with all of the references, not only for myself but also so that people listening along can kind of get the references maybe they can see or hear.
Yeah, I guess if you actually sat down and did like a list of all the songs that people mention and then put it at the bottom, that would be kind of a cool playlist.
Yeah, I have been doing that, so that's something
cool.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll get a very curated playlist. I really like doing that for every episode. Just
I think it's good.
So that people can keep up, because I love talking about all the different, musicians, but, sometimes a lot of name dropping can get a little overwhelming to somebody that's not, super, that's maybe just trying to get into
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Plus, that's a big bonus of the podcast is people get introduced to music that, through your interviewing techniques and so on. An obvious interest is that, you kind of elicit people's natural, likes. So that's great.
Yeah, that's the goal. And every episode is wildly different. I love, everybody has such a unique taste in music, and I think that's the best way to get to know someone, honestly. It's the first way I'll judge someone.
When I was in high school, it was very cliquey. What music you listened to was very cliquey. And I guess that's still true. You can be a goth or a metal or whatever. But I don't know, it just seemed even more so when I was growing up. So, like if you liked the Eagles, that was a deal breaker. I was not going to have any contact with you.
Yeah, I definitely felt that in high school too. I would like to think I have a wide range of music tastes, but you can always expand.
That's well out of my system. But I think in high school that was the way it was.
Yeah, no, definitely in high school. I think, unfortunately, I'm very embarrassed to admit this, but I got put into like the boy band category. But I also love classic rock, but nobody wanted to know that once they heard that I liked One Direction.
Well, that's probably not the most terrible thing to live down,
Yeah. So, one of the things that is unique about this store, you come in and there's all of these picture discs all over the wall. So, are you a big picture disc person? Or?
No, I just think that they're visually sort of striking.
Definitely.
And we have Shapes up there too. Shapes was something that they did in the 80s. And I guess they do them now, but in the 80s there was this brief little thing where I think the record companies were so awash in money, they were trying to find new ways of spending money because they had so much.
Yeah.
And I think that those things are interesting and kind of fun. And I had a talk with a friend of mine who's a musician, and he's been a big habitué of record stores, and I think that in answer to the question of why I liked records, I think it was because records were the first time that I found a place where I fit. Like the people who liked records and me kind of I like that band too. It was a very good feeling to be in a clique where I just naturally seemed to be with everybody, fit in with everybody else. It was kind of fun to belong in a place where I was like, oh, this is great. I can be exactly who I am, and everybody else is kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were talking about, he said he liked the picture discs because they were, he said other people, they put these $500 jazz records on the wall. And if you'll look, we don't have anything like that on the wall. And I think it's because it gets kind of boring to be like, this is an expensive record and you should buy it. So we try to make it where it's just an exploration and you can get whatever you want, and we're not picking winners and losers. It's sort of up to you.
Yeah.
And the picture discs are just there for visual purposes. We do have a section in the back for more expensive records, but that's just dollars. We're not saying these records are better than Air Supply or Earl Klug.
Oh, my favorite running joke.
I know. I sort of should stop picking on Air Supply. But, and one of our customers is friends with the lead singer, so we should be.
Oh no! Do I need
More
to cut all
careful.
of that out?
He'll live.
Okay.
Tim's a nice guy. He won't mind.
Oh goodness.
But anyway, so that stuff. We're not saying that stuff's better. It's just more.
Yeah.
So.
I honestly really appreciate that approach. I've become wary of looking at things on the wall because I'll see it from afar. Oh my gosh. And then I'll look and then I'll get close and it'll be $500. And I'm like, that's not even in the question.
But you're a successful engineer. $500, that should be an hour of billing time.
Not in this economy anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about the economy because we opened the store right when we had a sort of strange election, and the approach that our current pres has taken to the economy, definitely is something that I think concerns me. Although records are probably not going to be affected by tariffs as much as others. Used records shouldn't be affected at all. New records, we do get a lot of records from overseas.
I was going to say, I know, oddly enough, I found out the Czech Republic is a really big producer.
Yeah, Pirates Press comes out of the Czech Republic, and they press tons of new vinyl.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I guess
That is a random
Czechoslovakia
one.
kept their record pressing machines, and everybody else threw theirs into the landfill or whatever.
Yeah.
So they just still have them.
So I actually visited the Czech Republic, just Prague, but everywhere I go to record stores, and I always check out the music, and specifically the local music. And
Most records by Czech artists that I found were
covers of American music, but in Czech.
Well, that's good. We did. I mean, I guess America has at least produced one thing in music that is completely revolutionary, which is jazz. So
Yes.
and soul too. I think those really are two separate genres that the rest of the world is in awe of.
Oh yes.
I think England has punched above its own weight in music. So.
Oh yes.
So I think when you look at the '60s, especially, it's dominated by England. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have the Doors, and we kind of have Jimi Hendrix in a kind of a co whatever parenting situation because he's kind of England and America both.
Yeah.
And we have Creedence.
I think we should take partial credit.
No, I think he's American.
Yeah.
And then Creedence we have, and of course we have all the soul guys, Marvin Gaye and all that stuff, which the English are very jealous of American soul music because
As they should be.
they love American soul music.
So good.
Yeah. So.
I mean, like I said, everywhere I travel, I like to go to record stores. I was in the Netherlands, and my friend was trying to recommend me a record, and he picked up Gil Scott-Heron. I was like, I did take it home with me, though, because I didn't have it yet, but I just thought it was funny. They picked out American music for me. Anyways, I have one more question for you, and then I will let you get on with your night.
Okay.
So I really found it interesting that you are into books too, because I also love to read. So I was wondering if there were any books specifically about music that resonate with you, or that you think the world needs to read.
Please Kill Me by Legs McNeil is absolutely an absolute great read, and I think probably the best book about rock that anyone has ever written. It's just interviews with people from the 70s in the New York milieu of punk.
Ooh.
And it's just a self-destructive festival of drugs and just generally terrible behavior, self-destructive behavior, but it makes for great reading.
Okay. Nice. Do you think you'll have a section of books that are specifically music related?
I mean, I think that it's something of course we're going to do, but I really think that I don't know how much crossover there is between record people and book people. There is some, but I'm not sure that record people come to a record store and say, gee, I really want to buy books about records.
Oh, I guess that's just me then.
I mean, I think that there's lots of people like that. But
yeah.
People who come to record store tend to want records. And so the book section, I think, has got to kind of stand on its own. But
That makes sense.
It will, we definitely will have books by authors that I think have something to say. But there's so much stuff out there. I mean, do you really want to have every autobiography of every, country music singer and the 100 biographies of
No.
Dolly Parton? There's a lot of that stuff, and it's hard. That is something that probably does need to be curated because there's just so much.
Mm-hmm. Do you tend to read more nonfiction or fiction?
It varies.
Okay.
I read both.
I was just gonna say, if you read any fiction, I have a recommendation for you.
Go ahead.
The revival of Opal and Nev, and it was by Donnie Welton, and it's a fictional story about a duo, Opal and Nev. It's basically it's told interview style, so they're being interviewed in the present about what happened in the past in the 1970s, and it all circles around this moment where racial tensions escalated and there was an event, and it kind of revolves around that whole incident and everything leading up to it. Then it unravels. Well, you see the interviewer or the characters discover what actually happened was not what they thought.
Yeah.
But it's a fictional
Danny
one.
Welton.
Donnie Welton.
Donnie
I
Welton.
can write that one down for you because I think that's a random one to remember. But
Sounds interesting.
yeah, I'll recommend that one to
Okay.
you. Yeah, because I don't get a lot of people that are interested in music and also like to read, so I was very happy to hear your recommendations as well.
Yeah, Please Kill Me by Legs McNeil is a classic.
I'll add that to my list, definitely.
I mean, there's lots of books that are good. When I was younger, I liked Lester Bangs a lot, but I just think after a while he gets to be like he's so like flamboyant and over the top that he's a little much. But he's an interesting guy. He used to work for Cream in the 70s. I think he managed to OD, which is good because we need more critics to OD. It shouldn't just be the musicians. He threw himself into rock so completely that he OD'd. That's street cred.
Oh man.
That's messed up, but it's got me thinking about the band.
I'm a big fan of Disraeli Gears by Cream. I mean, that's an iconic album. But anyways.
Yeah, I love that record. I think that record's great.
Yeah.
I like Cream because to me they sound a little bit like, say, they're kind of dense the way Led Zeppelin is, but Cream is a much more like appealing band than Led Zeppelin, which is basically just like kind of these rowdy, just sort of, it doesn't have any warmth. I love Led Zeppelin's music, but just the band's like personality. I just think Cream has the sound, plus it's a lot more appealing because it's kind of quirky and interesting.
Yeah. And I love a good album cover.
I mean, I guess that, most bands have angst. Led Zeppelin does not have angst. Led Zeppelin has, we have so little angst, all we can think about is basically chasing around and having sex with women, which is fine. I think that that's very healthy, but I don't know, for some reason musically I'd rather hear somebody talk about something else.
Yeah, I'd say same, yeah.
I think maybe just a little more angst would have helped Led Zeppelin for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't
they've
have
got their crowd.
I don't have a warm feeling for Led Zeppelin, although I have to say that their music is just terrific. But I would rather listen to some introspective stuff, like, even the Beatles is more introspective. The Stones are a little like Led Zeppelin in that way, too. They're pretty scabrous, although the Stones are a lot more able to, Mick Jagger likes to take on, like, different personas, and so he sometimes writes from the perspective of some drug addict or somebody who's, like, got gambling debts or whatever.
Yeah.
He, like, When the Whip Comes Down from Some Girls is told from the perspective of a gay, closeted sanitation engineer. I mean, somebody who picks up trash in New York City. And he moves from LA and his parents are saying, I don't know if you're going to do well there, but then he loves New York City and he gets into some weird, and he's picking up trash and making good money doing it. It's just the weirdest possible, like, it's just, I mean, Mick Jagger's at least not predictable.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's what keeps things interesting, though, when things are unpredictable. I think that's kind of why I love psychedelic rock so much, is because you never know what's going to happen next, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not that great on, like, traditional song structures. I like something a little more freeform.
Yeah, I like when it's kind of interesting and it takes you on a journey that you didn't expect to go on.
I mean, there's some things like Elton John where you're like, I really shouldn't like Elton John, but I do. I love Elton John. But I mean, he's very song, chorus. I mean, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's a very traditional type of songwriting for the most part, but I mean, you just have to say that this guy's great at it.
Yeah, I mean, I love psychedelic rock, but I do enjoy pop because I love to sing along to things. So, yeah, gotta have both. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But is there anything that I didn't talk about that maybe you wanted to bring up, specifically about the store?
Well, sometimes people ask me why you should I open a record store? Everybody likes the idea that they should open a record store. Like, lots of people think, wow, I should open a record store. And I would say that it is a very hard job, and that if you have another job, you're going to make probably better money and have less stress and more free time if you don't open a record store. 'Cause if you open a record store, you're going to basically be doing something to do with records most of your time. And it's a lot of work. And it's complex. It's not easy to make a living doing this. And sometimes you can't make a living. I mean, there are years where I've had bad years, and it's just been like, yeah, that didn't work. But the store has generally been pretty successful. Here is definitely going to be a struggle because we're in this kind of, land that time forgot environment, and it's going to be tough because there's not any walk around traffic. And plus, we're in this sort of like gully, so it's actually hard to see us from the road. So trying to get our name out there and just trying to attract people who are, I mean, there's people like us who are like really into this and we're like artsy or whatever. And then there's a whole constellation of people who just think, and they're not wrong, that Down on the Corner by CCR is a great song and they want to have it on a record, but they're not going to normally come to a record store because it's just not something that they do. It's like they just sort of, it's not a mainstream pursuit for most people. And at the Battery, we had tons of people who thought it was cool to come to a record store who wouldn't normally come. So trying to get this huge, vast, silent majority of Americans who are actually open to the idea of buying records nowadays, but are not going to make a special trip. That's a tough one for us. But there's millions of people who, would just buy whatever, Stevie Nicks or Fleetwood Mac or something. But
yeah, there's some things that will just always sell.
Well, the stuff in here that tends to sell tends to be the stuff that's pretty esoteric, and so that's not so easy for me to restock. So it would be easier if people would come in and buy. If people would come in, we're always happy when somebody buys a Chicago record. We're grateful. In high infidelity or whatever, high fidelity, when the guy Jack Black is raking the guy over for buying a Herb Alpert record. We would never do that. We would be so grateful if somebody would buy a Herb Alpert record.
Yes. Yeah, that movie is very misrepresentative of what a record store is like now, I feel. They're much more welcoming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be because, it's like, if you aren't nice, it isn't like you're a gatekeeper. Way back when, you were kind of a gatekeeper. There was nothing except the radio. And so if you wanted to hear, the new Who album or whatever, you were kind of a gatekeeper of the record. You might be in a town where there's one record store, and so you and that Who album aren't getting together until you get it from that record store, and that gave record stores a lot of attitude. And people who worked there, but that's gone. Now it's just, we're all just folks, which is good. It's an improvement.
I'm really glad about that because, like you said earlier, I think I found my home in a record store. I was a 14-year-old that was into classic rock, and obviously a lot of people my age are into classic rock, but not quite as many as are into modern music. And so that's really where I found, I could be checking out some classic rock and somebody's gonna chime in and say, "Oh, you like that one? Check out this one." And that just was not an experience I had before I had stepped foot in a record store, so it was really nice. And here I am now.
Is there a song that you like that you are embarrassed to say, "I love this song"?
Well, I mean, anything by One Direction. Everything brings back such good memories for me when I was in high school. So I'd say that because I used to be very ashamed, especially since I'm so into music and record stores. It felt like even admitting that was just shameful. But I'd say that. What about you?
When I was in high school, I used to have this, it was almost like a drug. I'm not going to listen to this song because it's not good. And I think then I would have to listen to it. And it was, I think, Don't Bring Me Down by the Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah, okay.
That song to me was so great, and I used to think, God, this is just a terrible song, and I cannot like it. I'm going to rise above this song, and it's whole, and it's just depraved badness, but I couldn't.
No, they have some catchy ones.
Yeah, that was really catchy.
Oh, actually, I do have another one. One that you mentioned earlier. I enjoy Journey. I love the catchy songs. I love that I can sing along and the strong guitars. I'm into it.
Okay.
But I'm not really into Air Supply, so I hopefully passed that test. But I will admit, I do like Journey a lot.
Good. I'm happy for you.
I was gonna keep that to myself, but
I mean,
since you asked.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Journey. That's why, like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, taste is,
No,
it's
whatever
very
you like,
personal, so.
Yeah, whatever you like makes you happy,
Yeah.
like, you know.
And that's not the only thing I like, but I do enjoy their music.
Yeah.
I like singing along.
Yeah. I mean, I have to be somewhat benevolent towards other people's tastes because I actually don't know how to do anything in life. So if I have to, like, have the plumbing fixed, you know, I can't really say, what, can I hear about your musical taste before you fix my plumbing or repair my roof or anything? So, you know, I feel as though it's good to kind of be realistic and say, we're all in this together. We all have to kind of get along and, you know,
Yeah.
have a good relationship with everybody and not just have, like, silly little things.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you so much for being on.
Well, thanks for your help.
Thank you for your time.